Welcome to Count the Cost, our very first episode, guys. We're so happy you guys have joined us today for our first episode. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic, but first, I need to introduce a very special person in this room today. His name is Drew Burtis. He's my co-host. My name is Luke Stout. But first, Drew, would you please introduce yourself to the people?
Yeah, guys. My name's Drew. I work at the Bible Institute here up in Pottersville, the Word of Life Bible Institute, and have a little involvement with camp all throughout the summer, but love young people and really have a desire to see everyone take their next step with Jesus. I'm also a husband and a father. I've been married for 10 years, have 2 kids, Adeline and Judah, 8 and 5. We have a golden retriever puppy who's 1.5 years. And we love students. We love life. And I'm also a huge lover of coffee.
Really? Well, funny you say that, Drew. I got a little test for you today because
I love it.
Everyone that knows Drew knows how much you love coffee. And so what we're going to do is at the Bible Institute, so a little shameless plug for the Bible Institute, there's 3 main methods that you can receive your caffeinated bean juice. And the first one is our cafe, which I would say has really good coffee, actually. We get our beans from a cafe in Lake George called Cafe Vero. So
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. We're actually not sponsored by anything. But Cafe Vero beans. So our cafe has some really good coffee. And then there's another method that is probably not the preferred one, but it's our dining hall coffee machine. And so for any college students listening, you know that is not the ideal way to get your coffee. But the last one is one that would probably be in most dorm rooms, and it's a K-Cup machine. So we got K-Cup coffee, cafe coffee, and dining hall coffee. And so you're a coffee enthusiast.
I am.
What's your preferred method of coffee?
My preferred method is pour over. And so I have a ton of pour over devices in my house. I have a coffee bar in my house. Luke, you know that.
I've seen it. It's
a
insane.
little coffee bar set up in my house. I also have an espresso machine, but I haven't gone too far in that. But my preferred method is the pour over.
Gotcha. So preferred method is the pour over, and you'd probably rate that like a 10 out of 10.
Especially if I made it,
especially if you made it, because you know all the methods. Like this man, I've seen him make coffee. It's like timed. He times it. He's got a little scale, grind size. He's got everything. So
very important.
What we're gonna do is I'm gonna hand you a coffee. It's black.
Yep.
And you're gonna taste it, and then on a scale from 1 being the best to 3 being the worst, you're gonna rank them, and then I'm gonna tell you which ones they were. But you can also like guess which one you think it is. So
I could guess what I think this is.
Yeah,
and
you
then
can
rank
guess
it.
which one you think it is, and then you're gonna rank it on a scale from 1 being the best and 3 being the worst.
All right.
So this is the first one.
Let's do this.
There's like a lot of empty sound right now, so it's just like ASMR coffee drinking.
Yeah. Okay, not bad. And you know which ones these are?
I know which one that is.
Did you mark it on the bottom?
Yeah. So
okay.
like you lifted it up.
So I won't be able to see it.
You won't be able to see it.
All right, let me have the other one.
All right, here we go.
That one was, I want to try them all before I rank them.
Which one do you think that was, just off of first rip?
I don't know yet. I don't have anything to compare it to. So
It's all cold now by this.
Yeah, it's a little cold, but that's not a problem.
It doesn't change the flavor, I don't think.
Okay. I might know what this one is. That one's not great.
All right. And Drew, the last but not least.
I'm like really tempted to look underneath the cup, but I
don't. That would completely ruin it.
I can't do it.
I hope that the camera can catch it.
Oh, this is tough. This is really tough.
I'm so curious because you could either like get the rankings right. I'm curious to see if you know which one's which. Come on, Drew.
Okay. I think this one is the dining hall coffee.
Okay. Which honestly, it makes sense. That is not the dining hall
This
coffee.
is Keurig, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Keurig. This one is the worst, in my opinion.
Okay.
This one
I won't tell you the difference between the last two. I won't
This
tell
one
you.
has got to be cafe.
I won't tell you, but you got to rank them.
I got to taste this other one.
See, I told you he's a coffee guy. Like he knows.
Oh, that one's tough. Maybe they're closer than I thought. I think this one would be number 2. This would be dining hall.
Okay.
This one's cafe.
Okay, so
No
this is
way.
actually insane, and
No
I hope
way.
that all the BI students are listening to this.
This is unreal.
That is dining hall coffee, and this
There is no
and
way.
this is the cafe
Oh
coffee.
my
So-
goodness.
So Drew just ranked worst K cup, second best
Cafe.
best
Wow.
dining hall.
Wow.
Unreal.
I should be ashamed of myself.
I just can't believe that the dining hall is up there in your taste palette, and I
Really?
trust your taste palette. So I think I'm gonna actually give the dining hall coffee a shot because I don't even touch it ever.
Wow.
I don't even touch it. You want to keep drinking that?
I'm going to keep drinking this
Go
because
ahead,
this
keep
is
drink-
the cafe coffee.
Yeah, go for it.
It's good.
Yeah, that's the cafe
Wow.
coffee.
Okay.
Yeah. So Drew, there you go. Maybe
Wow.
you should take a shot at the coffee in the dining hall then, and like
Yeah,
have it hot. Maybe it changes. something. I
Seriously,
don't know.
maybe I got to just give it a go.
Maybe you got to give it a
I
chance.
got to give it a go.
Never judge a book by its cover. Huh?
That's right. That's right.
Well, so there we go. Coffee guy, coffee enthusiast ranks dining hall the second. Ranks the dining hall coffee the best.
that was at number 1 for me.
Number
which is
one.
Very surprising.
We
But
also have coffee at the island, which
do.
this show is all about the island.
Yes.
And
I bet the island coffee would top all 3 of these.
I bet it would because it's elite.
if you've been to the island, you know
And you
coffee on the island is second to none.
it's the best. But Drew, what has
Frappuccino of the day.
the frap of the days? We got the Goreo.
That's right.
We got the Rocky Ridge, whatever.
Yeah.
I never tried those. I'm gonna be honest, guys. As a program guy, like always avoided those because I didn't like them. But I
You
always
didn't
had
like the
to get
sugar
up
rush?
and I always had to get up and say like, oh, get this. This is the best frappuccino. But
Oh, confessions of a program.
confessions of a program guy. I don't like the pizza. Cherry limeades are all right, and
Wow,
fraps of the day I don't even touch them.
We're just going straight in.
We're going straight
there
in.
You
This is what you should
Top
expect.
3 confessions of
top
a program
Yeah,
guy.
those are the top 3 from the food perspective. But,
Yeah.
Drew, what was your favorite memory this summer at the island? There's a lot to remember.
Yeah, I got to speak this summer on a handful of Sunday nights, and one of the things that I loved about speaking on Sunday night was just simply laying the foundation for the week of camp, and just speaking about why we love the Bible, why we open up the Bible on the island, and so I had plenty of conversations after the fact. After speaking, I would have some campers come up and they would ask me some questions. And honestly, that was my favorite part of the summer was not just being able to preach a message, but to have conversations afterwards and just talk about real life. Like, hey, how can we be certain about this? And how high do you view the Bible? And just have a real life conversation with campers. And so that was a huge highlight for me. And then watching throughout the week after we laid that foundation of like, hey, we're going to open up the Bible a lot and we're going to talk about it. Seeing students then take their next step with Jesus. And one of my favorite things to see is people who maybe have been to church, maybe they grew up in a Christian home, but throughout the course of that week actually decide that their faith is their own. And deciding that they want to follow Jesus and they want to give Jesus everything. That is something that excites me like nothing else, is watching students say, you know what, Jesus, I'm all in. You've got every piece of me. My yes is on the table. Wherever you're going to take me, I'm willing to go. So that's one of my favorite parts about the island.
I think for me, my favorite thing about the island is just, watching that life change that happens from a Sunday night all the way to a Friday afternoon, Friday night. Just you know what I love about this generation? I just love people's willingness to talk about what they're going through.
100%.
And I just love the realness of the campers. I've had so many conversations with campers where it's like, this is what I'm going through. And I understand that this is tough, this is hard, and they just want help. And I've always loved the conversations that I get to have with the campers because without them, like, my job means nothing almost. So it's just like super fun to have good conversations with the campers, especially after playing a silly game or running a tournament. And so those are the memories that I'll hold on to for the rest of my life. But it kind of feeds into what we're actually going to be talking about today, Drew. We're going to be talking about how to keep the things that you learned at camp going when you go home. So it's like the topic would be keeping the fire going, life after camp. And so we want to talk to you guys a little bit about some ways that you can keep the things that you learned at camp going after you leave camp, because that's super. Well, excuse me, because that's super important. We don't want camp to just end and then start back up again in the summer for you guys. We want the things that you're learning in the relationship with the Lord that you started at camp. We want those things to keep going throughout the year so that you come back to camp and you're like more into God's word. You've become more into the things of the Lord, and that you just keep growing and you just keep growing in your faith with the Lord. And so that's our heart for you guys. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. So Drew, like, talk to me a little bit about life after camp. Like, what does that look like for a camper?
Yeah, I was a camper at one time. I was in high school, just like a lot of you guys are. And I remember going to camp during the summer and just really having this like fantastic experience and feeling like I'm on top of the world, like Jesus is everything to me, and I can't wait to go home and change my world and my circle of influence for Jesus. And then I remember getting home and kind of losing that environment that made me feel like I was on top of the world. Camp is a really cool thing, don't get me wrong, but camp is not all of life. And so when you get back from camp, it's very easy for you to get back into a routine. And I'm speaking from experience. I kind of go back to doing the things that I did before I went to camp, right? My schedule changes because my whole life is not a week of camp. I'm back living at home with rules from my parents or guidelines that I should live by. I'm back going to school, which could be a good or bad thing depending on the friends that you have and the influences. You could go back to a sports team or a club and be influenced in that way. And it can become very easy for you to basically just camouflage yourself back into the environment that surrounds you. It's easy to be on fire for Jesus and to love Jesus at camp because that's kind of the environment that's presented to you.
Of course.
But when you go back home, it's easy for you to kind of blend back in because maybe not everybody that you surround yourself with loves Jesus and wants to and live for him.
Yeah. Because not everybody back home is screaming Snack Shack and people are getting up and dancing.
Right.
So.
Camp is a very unique environment.
Yeah.
So it does become a hard transition back to your home life and your regular schedule. And I resonate with that because I lived that for a long time. And we want to talk to you just about, hey, maybe just a couple things to encourage you that you don't have to camouflage back into your environment back home. You can still live for Jesus and impact your circle of influence for him in a couple different ways. What are they?
Yeah, so the reality is too, like, it's not going to be a perfect transition ever.
Right.
Because the goal of camp is to teach you guys as much as we can in the short amount of time that we have you. But camp is not what real life looks like. The energy that you have at camp, the activities that we do, it's just not realistic to have that all year round. And so don't be discouraged to thinking that, well, I this is not what real life is like, so I can't have this much joy for the Lord, you know?
Right.
But the Lord actually has so much more for you guys back home than he could ever have at camp sometimes. He has big plans for you guys, and he wants to do some amazing things in your life. It's just got to be the willingness to let the Lord work.
Right.
And so we understand as a ministry that there's so much more that can happen outside of camp in your guys' lives. And we're not trying to just get you to camp and let you have fun and tell you about Jesus, and then you go home and you just do the same things. We want your lives to be continuously transformed.
Yeah.
And so a couple things that we put our heads together to think, what are some things that you guys need to be aware of as you go home and you transition back into real life? And the first thing that I thought about in my personal life was self-discipline. Self-discipline is an art. It is something that takes time. And so while I say this, also understand that it's not something you're just going to get, because it takes a lot of refining. And so I think about this book in the Bible in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11. It says, now all discipline seems painful at the time, not joyful, but later it produces the fruit of peace and righteousness for those trained by it. To me, that's an encouragement to think that the hard things in our life that we have to surrender sometimes, whether it be social media, whether it be time with certain friends, whether it be sleep, whether it be waking up early, like to read my Bible, even though it can be difficult sometimes, it produces the fruit of peace and righteousness if you're trained by it. And it's a valuable life skill that all of us need to every single day develop. Self-discipline. I'm going to choose to cut out the things in my life that I know are distracting me from following Jesus fully. I mean, you've been one of the biggest examples in my life for self-discipline. What do you think about when someone would say self-discipline, Drew?
Yeah, I think of it in the way that Jesus talks about in the New Testament. Jesus says to his followers, if you want to follow me, you make a choice every day to count the cost, which is what our podcast is called for a reason, and you deny yourself, take up your cross, you follow me. And that's a daily decision that has to happen, because it can be very easy for you to get up day after day and choose your own way rather than the way that Jesus is asking you to live. It becomes a habit of self-discipline for you to get up in the morning and say, you know what, Lord, I want to live my life. I want to live today for you. I want to walk in the way that you walked and do the things that you did. And so I'm going to choose at the beginning of every day to read my Bible, to engage with the word, to spend time talking to Jesus every day. And that does take time. Another verse that came to mind is in 1 Timothy chapter 4. It says that physical training is of some value, but training for godliness is of value in every respect. And it shows that self-discipline, like getting up every day, takes time and it takes effort on our part. It's a choice that we have to make. And that's what Jesus is asking us for, is day after day to say, you want to know what, Lord? I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to turn away from maybe my way of living, and I'm going to follow you.
Yeah. And I also just I think about the listener thinking, well, that's hard. Like, that's difficult. Like, it's going to take so much. I can't just change. And my encouragement to you would be, it doesn't have to happen immediately.
Right.
And it's not going to.
No.
It's not going to happen immediately, because we're creatures of habit. We love to go back to our sin. We love to go back to the things that so easily entrap us, because we are living in a fallen world. Right. And so the reality is that training yourself for the principles and the disciplines of the Lord is going to take time. I like to think about it this way. Lionel Messi, one of the best soccer players in the world. Sure, he's got some God-given ability, right? But he woke up every single day when he was a kid and he decided, I'm going to work hard at this because soccer matters to me.
Right.
He trained every single morning. He ate the right food. He did the right things. It wasn't just soccer. It was going to bed. It was eating the right food. It was saying no to hanging out with friends, probably, and whatever it may be in your life. But he said no to things that maybe he wanted to say yes to. And he worked hard every single day. And then it paid off for him because he became one of the best soccer players in the world. Right. But in that story, do you hear, oh, he just decided to be the best soccer player in the world and he just was? Right. No, it was years and years of failure, years and years of trying new things to get him to that point. And I think that is a great reflection of what our lives with the Lord can look like, is that it takes effort. It takes time. It takes sacrifice. It's not just going to happen.
Right.
And you need to be easy on yourself sometimes, not in the way of like, I'm going to stop. It's like, no, I need to realize like that it's just not going to happen in one day. So don't get discouraged. Be encouraged knowing that that's not how the Lord views it, at least. And so, and I think that plays into this next point that I really want to talk about, because I know that you got something special for this. If you want to keep that fire burning from camp, you need to remember the decisions you made. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. All throughout the Old Testament, we see this same theme of remembrance. God's chosen people, the people of Israel, you can read about them all throughout the Old Testament. He would lead them in certain directions, and there were times where they were disciplined for their unbelief and their lack of following the Lord. But yet, when they did and they saw the Lord deliver them, when they saw the Lord provide for them, I think about a story when the Lord provides for them in the wilderness. They're wandering in the wilderness, and God gives them food that they need, or God takes them across the Jordan River, which was a dangerous task, but the Lord provided a way through that for them. Over and over, they would set up these altars to the Lord, right? They would set up a set of stones, and they would put this in a very strategic place where they saw God provide for them and God work. And the reason that they set them up was so that generations following them would be able to look at those stones, and the story would be, we saw God do something amazing. And maybe for you, your stones that you place in a certain place, maybe it was the island for you. Maybe it was the chance that you saw God do something great in your life at the island, and you set up a way to remember the island as, hey, I saw the Lord show up, and I'm going to remember that when times get tough. Because times will get tough, right? Life will get hard, and you will be tempted to quit. You will be tempted to throw the towel in and say, you know what, Jesus isn't worth it anymore. But remember what Jesus did on the island in your life and the decisions that you made. I carry something around with me all the time. People ask me all the time. It's on my backpack. It's just simply an orange lanyard. And one of the things we do for snow camp, which some of the listeners may be familiar with this, but all of us staff wear an orange lanyard every single weekend at snow camp. And I was encouraged this past year to remember what happened at snow camp. And one of the tangible ways that I was challenged to remember snow camp was by keeping the orange lanyard around. Yeah. And so I have it on my backpack. I carry it with me all the time. And every time I see the orange lanyard, I'm reminded, well, what did the Lord do during snow camp? Yeah. And that was a tangible way for me to practice this idea of remembrance.
Yeah. And I'm sure people are like, why do you have an orange lanyard on your book bag? And then that it gives you an opportunity to maybe speak some life into other people. Yes. That's really cool. Yeah. I think remembering is the key to consistently having your mind fixed on the things of the Lord. Right. If you find ways to remember the things that the Lord has done in your life, then your mind will always stay on him. Yep. And that's an important discipline that us Christians, we need to practice, is we need to have our mind fixed on the Lord throughout the whole day, the entirety of the day, not just like 15%, not just our mornings, not just our nights. The Lord wants every piece of our day. Right. And I think remembering helps us do that. And I think the last thing that I just kind of want to touch base on shortly is accountability. I think having a friend or someone in your life to remind you of the decisions that you've made is really important. Like, hey, Drew, remember that you threw a stick in the fire this summer saying that you were giving your all to Jesus. Is this action that you're doing right now helping you live your life for Jesus, or is it not? Like having someone in your life to keep you accountable to the decisions that you made. I know you feel super strongly about accountability in your life. What do you think about that?
Yeah, a couple of passages come to mind in biblical principles. The one is a proverb, which is just a nugget of wisdom, and it says that the wounds of a friend are better than the kisses of an enemy. And what it shows me is that a friend like you, right? If you were to come alongside me and say like, hey man, I'm watching the way that you're living and it's not necessarily lining up to what you had made a decision for in camp, that may hurt coming from you, but I know that it's out of a good heart. I know that you're looking out for me and you want to see me continue to live for Jesus. And so that proverb speaks volumes to me about having people in your life that are willing to ask you the hard questions, maybe willing to get in your face a little bit and challenge the way that you're living because they have a heart of love for it. The other passage that I think of is in Ecclesiastes, and it simply just says, pity the man who falls down and doesn't have somebody to help him up. right? Like,
Yeah.
and then it talks about a 3-strand cord is not easily broken. And the idea is between the Holy Spirit in you and people beside you, it's harder for that to
Yeah,
break,
of
right?
course,
And
yeah.
so you going and living life on your own, it can be easy for you to maybe fall back into a previous way of living or to fade in your commitment to Jesus. But when you have the Holy Spirit inside of you and a friend beside you, makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Because that friend is there to pick you up when you fall, and you're there for your friend when they fall down. And so accountability matters. Having people in your life that love you and that you love, and you doing life together, pursuing Jesus together, makes all the difference.
Yeah, some of the best conversations about the Lord have come from my accountability partner. Not always just like someone at church or
Right.
a message that I heard or reading a book. It usually comes from a friend coming alongside of me and helping me with a tough situation in my life. But as we wrap up, I just want to talk about maybe something to help you guys. I know it's helped me a lot greatly in my life. We want to leave you guys with a resource after every single episode. We want to leave you guys with a resource after every single episode to go forward with something tangible. And so the first thing that we want to bring to you guys is this awesome resource called the Bible Reading Plan.
Yep.
You can sign up for this at BibleReadingPlan.org, and we'll put the link in the description of this video.
Yep.
But essentially, this church sends you out a chapter to read from the Bible every single day with a go deeper section that helps you understand what you just read with some application questions at the end. If you're looking for something to help you get consistently into God's word, that's an option.
Yep.
And then we also have our Word of Life Quiet Time that you can buy on our website, and we'll also leave that link in the description. Me and Drew both do the Bible reading plan every single morning, and we talk about it all the time. It's really helpful for us. Right now we're reading through Genesis, and it's been great. And so, if you're looking for a way to get more consistently into God's word, check both of those resources out. I think that they will help you greatly. But for now, Drew, that's all we got. So first episode in the books. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you comment something that you that the Lord taught you today. Share this with a friend. Share it on your Instagram story. And we're praying that this is beneficial to you guys. Drew, you got anything?
No. Love y'all.
Love you guys. Bye.